Welcome, welcome. Web Summit Vancouver, day 3, final day. How's everyone feeling? How's everyone feeling?
Woo!
All right, quick show of hands. Who's building a startup? Who's building an AI startup? OK, perfect. So today we're going to talk about how AI and the cloud are increasingly joined at the hip. We'll also go into specifically what startup founders should know about the cloud and AI. And we'll also look a little bit at, we'll get some advice from my esteemed panelists about for anyone building a startup and what they should know. But first, why don't you guys introduce yourselves and just quick one sentence what you do at your respective companies, starting with you, Alexey.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Alexey. I'm the CTO and a co-founder of a local startup company. We serve the public transit industry and build AI-enabled technology to help them with their mobility services.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephan Bitton. I lead the Canadian startup team for Google Cloud. I'm based out of Montreal, spent 20 years building tech companies, and today I'm excited to be on the other side helping startups build on Google Cloud.
Perfect. OK, so I want to start, Alexey, if you can take us back when you were first working on Spare, when you were first putting the company together, and you ended up choosing Google Cloud. What obstacles did Google Cloud remove for you, and what challenges did it not remove, or what new challenges did it present?
Yeah, I mean, we've started about 10 years ago, and even then, I think going cloud was sort of the de facto choice. Anything that lets us focus on our business, to move faster, that was kind of an obvious thing. I will say, like, we didn't know if getting tied to a specific cloud provider is a risk for us. So we started out as much as we could on open source technology, hosting on things like Kubernetes so that we weren't too tied down. Over time, I think we realized that that's OK. But it was early stage still in our industry, and we didn't know if our customers would want us to be in this cloud and over here. But I think we, in general, made the right choice, and it helped us a lot with things like compliance and just getting off the ground faster.
Yeah, I want to get back to vendor lock-in, but Stephan, can you build on that? What are you seeing startups when they're first deciding with regards to like which cloud provider they should choose?
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing is, by definition, digital natives are building on cloud, right? So they're looking over how fast can they accelerate, iterate, can they put their technology in the hand of customers? So basically, they'll be looking at the ease of use of a cloud technology like Google Cloud. What are the programs specific that are out there supporting startup from day one? If we think of the Google for Startup program that gives a ton of credit for startups to build their MVP and grow on us, those things are very critical. And the last thing I would say is, what's the ecosystem available from a Google Cloud standpoint? What do we have access by being with Google Cloud beyond the greatest and latest technology, in the sense of accelerating the market, go to market, the visibility, making sure that we provide a lot of reach to our startups.
Perfect. And so, Alexey, you mentioned you were concerned about lock-in. Do you have any advice for founders right now if they're thinking about they're just starting out, or maybe they've already chosen and they're worried, oh, I chose Google Cloud, maybe I want to move to AWS one day, or maybe I want to move to Azure. How should they think about that, or should they not think about that at all? Should they try to remain as agnostic as possible so they're more flexible later?
I think it depends on their business. If you're early stage, I don't know if you know your customers yet. You kind of have to figure that out. I would probably err on the side of providing the advice of try to avoid the lock-in, because you don't know if your customers, we work a lot with enterprise customers, and we've certainly gotten the RFP requests of you must put this in our AWS instance. And we've just pushed back on that and said, no, you know what? We're hosted on Google Cloud. This is what it's going to be. And then we kind of wait and see what happens. And a lot of times those compliance needs went away. And over time we learned, hey, these things go away. We actually now have enough say and power in the industry to make these types of things go away and make them bend over more to how we do the business and how we host our technology. But in the early days, you don't really know the customers you're going to encounter. You might get very strict customers that want it to be build on their own cloud and bringing it to their instance. So if those are the customers you're dealing with, then definitely staying as flexible as possible is is better.
And Stephan, how are you thinking through that for Google Cloud? If to remove that completely so the startup founders don't even have to consider it, what are you doing to mitigate that worry they might have?
Absolutely. What we are hearing from our founders is that they need that flexibility day in, day out because of the unknowns. So what we're trying to do is basically provide as many different options as possible. If we think of the AI stack, most startups are coming to us for the AI stack that we have available, where basically they could have access to open models, they could have access to our Gemini models, to platform like Vertex AI that can give access to a lot of it. So we are trying to, it's our job as Google Cloud and also as a former founder to support and to provide the best tool out there for them to choose basically at the end of the day the best.
Yeah, so you mentioned AI stack, and that's what we're going to talk about now. We want to focus on the AI component, right? Many companies and many startups are specifically looking at cloud providers because of all their AI tools nowadays. Is there a very specific AI tool or technology that you found has been useful from the cloud, or not, just in general from AI that you found is transforming how your company operates internally, or something that you're providing, an AI tool that you're building for your customers?
Yeah, so we're doing both right now. So I maybe touch base on the operational side first. Pretty much everybody at our company is using AI in one shape or form to augment the way that they work. And it's like our job to continually push that, continually try to get people to try new tools and evolve how they use it. I know coding has been like a really big aspect of it. Every software engineer at Spare uses it a lot. But we've seen it also from like RFP submissions, doing marketing better, doing sales. We're looking at like, hey, can we throw in a coach to listen to our sales staff doing a sales call so they can live provide updates of like, here's what you should say next. So that's like, really, if you're not using those types of tools in your operational day-to-day, I feel like you're going to lose to a company that does use those tools because they're just going to move a lot faster. But to also talk through how it's part of the product, one thing that I'm really excited about is we've started to solve the call center problem for our customers. So our software operationally provides kind of trip bookings and the whole interaction with booking a ride, getting a trip, getting the vehicle to pick you up. So our customers operate these human call centers, and we work a lot with elderly people, people with disabilities that don't actually know how to use a mobile app really well. So they call in and they even just to check their ETA, cancel a trip, book a ride. And we've been deploying kind of AI voice technology where they can call in and just talk to an agent. And that I think is something I'm really excited about because it's kind of changing the way people interact with technology.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's becoming a medium to which we just didn't have the capacity to build on before. So people would, be resorted to using a phone, be resorted to using working through a human or a web app. But now there's this whole new medium of interaction, and that's something that's been very powerful for our customers.
Yeah. So same question. How are you finding the various startups in your portfolio? How they're using AI internally, and then how they're also deploying AI tools? Like, what stands out to you especially now?
Yeah, what we're seeing and what's really exciting about what's going on right now. So you have the AI native new startups that are built from the ground up on AI, and you have, I would say, more traditional startup that needs to adopt AI to stay relevant and to accelerate. So those ones are typically leveraging our tools to iterate faster on the business, iterate faster on the product. So from code generation, from QA, from all the marketing. So to basically achieve a lot more with leaner teams. What I'm really excited about is eventually what we're seeing is startups like one we've been working with from Toronto, Acefa AI, that is a very nimble, small team, five of them signing large contract with enterprise because of the power of the Gemini tool and AI they're using every day. So those things were not even possible a couple of years ago when you needed a lot of investment money from the ground up just to build a team of 20 people to have a software, an MVP that you could eventually put in the hands of a few customers. And again, when you're trying to attack or have a market of more large customers, then you need to be compliant, you need to be resilient, security, all that. So again, you need to accelerate faster. And AI today is empowering startups to get there even faster than before.
One thing to touch on your point. What's interesting is I think those companies that are brand new, brand fresh, they actually have a massive advantage. Like I consider us a startup, but we are also like about 150 people, and even we have a hard time getting like processes changed, new types of ways to do things deployed. So imagine like a 1,000-person company, a 2,000-person company. Like this is, I think, what the startups are going up against. So in some ways, I'm like envious of these like 5-person teams that are just like, you know what, our whole teams are going to be AI agents, and this is the future of work, and they can accomplish so much with so little time. I think you were saying earlier how a lot of these teams are even moving away from getting VC funding because they don't need it.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to build a process from scratch as opposed to rip out the old process. I mean, humans are like consistency, right? So it's tough when you've been doing something for a little while and you have to start all from scratch. But if you don't know any better, because you're just starting the company, you can kind of build all of that from the ground up, and it's definitely different.
A change is scary for people when they're used to something a certain way.
For sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier when we were talking about some PMs that are using coding, and could you talk through a few use cases where you found AI is really changing the nature of how your organization runs?
Yeah, I think the product managers doing software tasks is an interesting example where we've started seeing that like simpler tasks, they can pick those up. I think there's both pros and cons to that. We've definitely seen a lot of success where they're able to build something that works really well. They're able to QA it really quickly and say, boom, this is great. But then we've also seen they kind of build something, push it over the edge, an engineer reviews it, looks good, and then takes down some service in production, and it becomes a whole problem where it's like maybe the problem is they can't fully own it because they don't fully understand what was produced. So I do still see, probably for the foreseeable future, that primarily we'll be having engineers utilize these tools to be a lot more efficient. But definitely kind of excited to see as these models improve how that changes and shifts a bit to different roles.
Or at least for mission critical, right? Maybe mission critical, something that's vibe coded, isn't deployed, but maybe just for an internal tool that isn't mission critical, that won't take down the company's service.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a partnership between a PM and a dev, right? Where the dev sees everything and regularly checks in, but the PM is creating whatever feature they've envisioned or that the customer has told them about.
Yeah. One really cool instance we've had recently as well is designers building whole prototypes rather than doing something in Figma. So it's like you can bypass the whole dragging and designing everything and making it look nice. Just like open up one of these tools and type in what you want to see, work on the prototype, and then that's what you're actually handing off to the engineer. It's much more rich. It's like something that they can immediately understand. It's like the communication barrier. We're all starting to speak more of maybe the same language, so the handoff process is
and it also influences the design, right? It's not just visual. There's, if you click this button, here's what it looks, and here's the flow. Here's how things switch over and animate and so on, as opposed to just like stills, and like this is how it would look, and you can actually...
Yeah, because often like a designer will give you a mock-up, and once you start working on it, it's like, oh my God, there's so many things not thought through here.
Yes, exactly.
But this kind of approach, they're thinking through these as they are working through the design. So by the time that it's handed off to you, it's already actually very well thought through.
Yeah, exactly. And similarly, Stephan, are you seeing examples of, or any example that come to mind for startups, how AI is changing internally, some use cases?
Yeah, one top of mind is a startup that came to me and said, I start trying the API, for example, on top of Gemini to start building agents. And within days, they recreated the whole SaaS platform. So they were excited, but also they were scared because that means their product could be replicable a lot more faster. So that's the paradigm. That's what's shifting right now. So it's really more about them going after the market rapidly, finding a vertical, finding the right customers, winning market shares. That's one example. The other one that we're seeing a lot and exciting about is leveraging AI for accelerating sales cycles. So for example, putting Gen AI at the heart of the CRM to accelerate the RevOps. So from a lead to closing, everything is automated and generated by AI. So they remove all the hustle from being really manual. So that's so cool because, again, startup, cash flow is king. So if you shorten the sales cycle, that means easier for you to start growing, right?
Absolutely, and it is kind of an interesting time. You were mentioning that like they were able to rebuild their whole product from scratch. I feel like it now is like a really exciting time to build because we have all these tools, And honestly, people are still figuring out how to use them to build businesses. But what happens in 5 years' time when these tools are so widespread and so well understood that like me as like an accounting team person can just go and build whatever tool I want, like,
Yes.
you know, is that going to kill SaaS? Maybe.
It could. It could.
It could.
Or it's definitely going to change SaaS for sure.
Definitely going to change it a lot.
I'd like to also talk about, so one of the other advantages that the cloud offers is where your data sits and what customers you can access. That's also, you know, top of mind for many Canadian startups, but also startups that are in one region and playing in other regions. Could you talk a little bit about, Alexey, how you've seen Google Cloud help you with that, or maybe limit you in some ways?
Yeah, it's been honestly an absolute lifesaver for those types of things because, yeah, as we started going up market, you know, we started hosting everything in Canada, and that was our starting point. But as we started moving into US, Europe, Japan, everybody wants dedicated, regionalized data storage, data processing in their region. And that's just a very common thing with GovTech and any kind of enterprise applications. So being able to just easily spin these things up, throw a bit of Terraform in there and replicate it across a few different regions has been, yeah, super helpful.
And Stephan, is there anything you can build on there? I'm curious, like, where are you finding that startups are finding friction there, and where are things actually easier for them?
So on the way I look at it is that we need to help them to get those large enterprise customers that are asking them to get the data in Canada, to keep the data in Canada. So what we're very good at is making sure that we have the data sovereignty in Canada, for example, but at the same time, we want to help them to scale globally, so access also to other markets. So that's the paradigm, the challenge that we need to face. And we feel very good about what our startups are telling us. And that's a true need nowadays, to have access to security, to data compliancy, all in the same region. So that's a good thing we are doing.
Perfect. So we're getting towards the end, and I did promise some advice, so a little bit more. If you guys have one thing that, you know, there's a startup founder in the audience, they're thinking through their business. What is maybe a mistake you made that you wish you didn't make and you're going to tell them to avoid, or maybe there's a specific technology that you're really excited about that they should definitely be looking into as they're building up their organization internally and thinking about their customers. Anything come to mind, Alexey?
Oh, I don't know if I have a specific recommendation. I mean, I think you're all familiar with all the latest and greatest tools out there. What I'd say is just experiment a lot with these things right now, because if experimenting with a tool and building an AI flow that can help you save hiring a headcount, that's like $100,000 or $200,000 you're going to save this year, and that's going to compound a lot more. So I think if you're building up your business, rather than thinking like headcount first and like what's the team that I'm going to build, think about like, okay, what are the problems that my team is going to solve? How do I solve those problems in an automated way? And while you're early, put these things in place like now. Don't wait until later. That would be my recommendation.
And keep experimenting, right? Even once
keep experimenting, yeah.
Once they're in place, just because you figured it out doesn't mean, like, things are changing so quickly.
Yeah, things are always changing. You know, evaluate how it's working, and then keep trying new models, keep trying new tools, keep throwing it out there.
Yeah. Stephan, and what do you? Anything that comes to mind? I mean, you talk to so many startups every day,
yes.
So it's hard to zero in on one. So maybe just give us a handful that you think you're particularly you want people to avoid certain mistakes, or you really want them to investigate a technology.
I would say number one is leverage the ecosystem. Like, you're not alone, right, to build that. So make sure that you're leveraging the ecosystem. Make sure that you're leveraging also your partnership with a company like Google Cloud, right? Make sure that you make them work. You make us work to make sure we accelerate your startup. We are here for that. We are intentionally here to help you accelerate and grow. That's number one. And secondly, think from the very beginning, and I know it's not always as easy, but think from the beginning to make sure that your technology is scalable, right, and that is secure. I know some of the times we just start an MVP, and eventually the same MVP runs a couple of years after with full licensed customer and very low layer of security. So my advice is make sure you're ready for scale rapidly and secure technologies.
Okay, perfect. So experimentation, network, an ecosystem, and scalability and security. If you continue to think about those things every day, you'll be okay. Okay. Awesome. Let's end it there. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.